Yo, it's your boy Colin, aka Colin Trades CSP, back with you with another video. Last week, I could say, was probably a very tough overall trading week for myself personally, but when it comes to the overall market, as you kind of saw, we did get a sell-off into the second half of the week, but on, I believe it was Wednesday or Tuesday after hours, we did get some potential news of the ceasefire and like some type of what was the word? Something about regarding a peace treaty or a peace idea coming through, but then Iran basically declined all of it and now in the process of creating their own type of peace deal, which then on Thursday and Friday we had a continuation to the downside of sell-off with this news. And then now today is the March 29th, with the Pentagon now approving for ground troops, as we are in the process of sending 3,500 U.S. Marines to the Middle East for a potential ground invasion. So a lot of things has happened since, I would say, Wednesday, when we did push that idea of a potential peace deal, to then Thursday with the disagreement, and then the continuation of the sell-off, breaking key levels on Friday, and then now going into the weekend. So overall, the market is pretty bearish. Like I've said in previous videos, nothing is really going to change unless this war is officially over and we get some peace deals going on and no crisis when it comes to oil and so forth and so forth. So as of right now, you can't really put yourself in long positions, but if you are a long-term investor, this is a good opportunity for buying cheap stocks or very valuable stocks for a discounted price. So these are great opportunities when it comes to that. But overall, if you are a day trader or so forth, it is just catching small momentum bounces, but do not trust those bounces, because overall, with the so-called bearish news with the war in the Middle East, it's very hard to allow for the continuation. And what I've been noticing now is Donald Trump's tweets are not basically soaking as they used to be, allowing for continuation to the following day, as what happened on Wednesday when he proposed the deal. We did get a sell-off in the after hours, which then allowing for the sell-off come that Thursday pre-market. So a lot of things happened this past week, and we have a lot of things happening this coming week. When it comes to news, do we get a continuation sell-off when it comes to the overall market? Do this news affect the data now that we're starting to enter bearish territory? Sometimes what happened in the past when we had such bearish markets, sometimes certain bearish news allowed for the market to be somewhat bullish. So we're going to get into a very tricky market overall when it comes to trading, because you'll start to see bearish news, but the overall market is so bearish that the bearish news allows for the market to somewhat bounce. So it gets very confusing as a trader sometimes, but it's something we just got to make sure, like I always preach, is pay attention to key levels. Just keep playing the key levels. At the end of the day, those are somewhat support levels that we need to just watch out for, and then just basically make sure that we're playing short-term trades, because you never know when things could reverse if we do bounce, or if we hit certain resistance zones. We just basically reverse continuation to the downside. So let's get into the news first. Like I always do, I always like to look at what's coming up when it comes to news. Then we'll take a look at the overall how the weekend is going when it comes to futures markets, and then go look at the charts to see any potential trade ideas, as we had like I said, a pretty big sell-off on Friday. So sit back, relax. If you like these type of videos, hit the like button, subscribe for more, and don't forget to hit the bell notification for notifications for when these videos get posted. All right, so let's get into the news, and we'll see how we can figure out a game plan for this coming week. So looking at Monday, which is pretty interesting, I didn't know was that Jerome Powell will be speaking on Monday at 10:30. What sucks is overall not just Jerome Powell speaking, but the timing of him speaking at 10:30. So when it comes to that Monday morning, especially after Friday's sell-off, there's most likely going to be a very, very, very flat Monday morning until 10:30, just for the fact because everybody is preparing what Jerome Powell is going to be speaking about come 10:30. You know, there's a lot of things when it comes to interest rate hikes due to the fact because oil prices are so high, causing inflation to spiral higher, allowing for the Fed to make a decision if they want to potentially raise rates this week or this year, or even not make any interest rate cuts at all throughout 2026. So there's a lot of speculation going on when it comes to that, and that the market does, possibly has not priced in. So whatever Jerome Powell does say at 10:30 could cause some serious reactions, especially if the decision of potential rate hikes coming in 2026. And then we do have another Fed speaker at 4 most likely after hours on Monday. Going into Tuesday, we do have, looks to be S&P Case-Shiller Home Price Index, Chicago Business Barometer, job openings, consumer confidence. That first basically half hour is pretty decent size when it comes to news. Consumer confidence and job openings, those are probably going to be very key data to keep an eye on. And then another Fed speaker at 12. Fed speaker at 3, and then another Fed speaker at 5. So, I would say the one thing to keep an eye on is job openings and consumer confidence, as that will be roughly around 10 o'clock, that turn of that first hour. So that's something to keep an eye on. And then Fed speakers between 12 and 3. So that's another two that definitely to keep an eye on if you are a potential day trader. Come Wednesday, April 1st, April Fool's Day, we do have the start of a new month, U.S. retail sales, minus autos, ADP jobs, so more job reports, making sure that we do have still a strong economy overall. More Fed speakers before market opens, and then S&P, final U.S. manufacturings, PMI, ISM manufacturings, and then business inventories. Not really too much basically market movers after 9:45 when it comes to this, but we'll be paying attention to ADP job reports, as this is to see the strength of the current economy right now. Thursday, April 2nd, initial jobless claims at 8:30 in U.S. trade deficit. This one it is a market mover, but when it comes to overall news, that's something that probably won't be as serious of a trading day, so allows for a little bit smoother price action overall. Hopefully nothing does pop up throughout the day, but Thursday hopefully looks to be a decent price action day when it comes to no serious news throughout the day. And then Friday, of course, probably the more important day out of these is U.S. unemployment rate. So every Friday, the first Friday of the month, we get the U.S. employment rate. So that's something just to see how strong the economy is when it comes to the consumer side. It's making sure this basically stays low as we are in a higher inflation and interest rate economy. U.S. hourly wages, making sure we don't get any type of wage price spiral with people trying to increase their wages as inflation is lowering. So that does cause inflation to go higher sometimes as well. Hourly wages year over year, S&P US service PMI. So overall, it looks to be a very impactful week when it comes to economic news, especially, of course, starting with Monday with Jerome Powell speaking at an hour after the market bell opens. So that is going to be something to keep an eye on as a day trader, but also overall throughout the week, we do have some pretty impactful news that can move markets on top of what we have, what's going on in the Middle East. So just make sure to trade safe when it comes to that news. Another thing, this is basically right now, currently the weekend tech market when it comes to the NASDAQ. We are looking even with the news that was coming out with potential ground troops, that this can basically cause this war to last longer than expected. This does, when that news came out earlier, basically today, but also yesterday. Right now, we did get a sell-off, but we're currently overall flat going into now. It's currently 3:31, so we have 3 hours since this video will be posted to see how the overall market will open for this weekend's futures. But overall, we're looking to be opening up pretty flat, not going to lie. And like I said, this is probably going to be the main headwinds coming in from the weekend into Monday, was basically the potential move of ground troops into the Middle East, this causing the war to last longer than expected and more U.S. citizens and people to be dying due to the fact because of this war. So it is a little headwind that's going on and could cause the market to pull come Monday for a continuation to the downside. So we're going to have to hope that Jerome Powell overall speaks pretty dovish when it comes to helping support the market, and he doesn't continuation to the downside and continue the sell-off. So, overall, we just got to make sure, like I said, when it comes Monday, if this news gets soaked in, we want to make sure that we have, prepared for what's to come. So that's why I'm here. Make sure you're updated with the news. So come Monday, here we're going to look at the charts. We're going to see exactly how we want to play in this out. There's some key levels I've been paying attention to over the week when we closed out on Friday. As you can see, across the board, there was an overall sell-off, but also key levels were broken on Friday of last week. So now it's, we just got to make sure, hey, what is next? What is the next potential support to where we can probably maybe even bounce to new highs, or just basically if it's just a short-term bounce overall, we just got to make sure that we're prepared as traders. So starting with ES, one of the things that I was basically keeping an eye on for a while was this 6,500 area. As you saw, August 2025, we had this as potential resistance. We broke up, use it as support. And this past Friday, we did finally break that key level. Now, we have two levels I do want to keep an eye on come Monday. If we do have a continuation sell-off to the downside, I'm going to be keeping an eye on this 63.24 as potential next support area. As you can see, resistance here, resistance here, resistance here. We broke through, retested it to go longs, and we haven't retested this level since this retest back in August of 2025. So, we would need to see some more downside, which is roughly around 1% to the downside, if we want to test this level. But that is something I'm going to probably be keeping an eye on for a potential support area to test longs. Now, if we do break to the upside, let's say we do gap open up to the upside come Monday, I'm going to keep an eye on this 6450 level, 6450 as potential resistance. Like I said, when you're playing basically in this type of market, you have to understand what's going on from the outside to see, basically play this market. So as of right now, you cannot be overall bullish just to the fact because of what's going on in the Middle East. So I can only think is basically using short-term bounces as just basically bounces into resistance for another leg down until there's any type of serious news of this war being over, then I will change my stance. But as of right now, because of the war in the Middle East, I'm going to be basically a short-term bear until things change my mind. So as of right now, what's going to happen, what I think, is 64.50 as a potential resistance come Monday. And if I go in a shorter term time frame, as you can see, this was a potential support come Monday, or this past Friday, which then we broke it, and now I want to see this as potential resistance. And then if you zoom back out on the daily time frame, you can see this 64.50 was resistance once, twice. We broke through it, tested it, went long, broke it again. It just basically multiple tests, support, went long. We haven't tested it since. Now we've broken through that key level. I would like to see this as resistance, then to come back down into this 30, 63, 24, 25 area as potential support. So a little basically bounce and then reject off that zone. If not, reject, bounce off that zone. Now, if we do, of course, break this key level come, Monday, if we do, let's say we just gap up off some crazy news of Jerome Powell, then, of course, then the next level I'll be keeping an eye on for potential resistance is this 6,500 area as resistance. As you can see, it was my original support. Once broken through from my support, now turns into resistance. So that is going to be my first key level I'm going to be keeping an eye on. And let me make sure to turn this red as well, because now this is my resistance zone. So I'm going to be now, this will be basically my potential resistance coming into this week to see how we want to basically play this out. Next, the NQ, same thing, basically same concept happened as well. 23.8 was my first level of support. So this was basically my first key level that I was going to be keeping an eye on this week. We had a resistance here, basically broke through, used it as support for a little bit, then became resistance, broke through it, and we haven't retested it since. This past Monday, we used it as support, then tested again, and then of course the Friday follow through to the downside. Now, if we do continue to sell off, this is a little bit further from ES, but the first key level I'll probably keep an eye on is this 22.8 as potential support, as it was tested here once and sometime over here. So 22.8 is my first potential support, but my key support zone would be this 22.4, as if you start to zoom out, it tested it originally from the original sell-off in 2025 when it came to the tariff news. So these would be the longer term support areas, but if you want a short term bounce, I would keep an eye on 22.8. Now, if we do again decide to gap up pre-market due to basically Jerome Powell speaking and stuff like that, the first line of defense I'm going to be keeping an eye when it comes to resistance is going to be this 23.8. Again, this was my support and it is now my resistance now that we've broken through it. So I would like to see 23.8 basically act as my resistance for the next leg down to 22.8. So these are going to be my two key eyes I'm going to be looking at when it comes to NQ, and then of course using ES as my basically playthrough to see if we follow through to the upside and downside. So those are going to be the key levels I'll be looking on that. And of course, love to look at my Bitcoin as well to see how this is playing out. Like I always preach, continue to preach, 75,000 is the level to keep an eye on. As of right now, we of course tested that twice, rejected it twice, and now of course with the sell-off on Friday, we are coming down to then look at this test of 60,000. Right now, this is probably in like no man's land, you can say, as we're between that 75 and 60,000, right in smack back in the middle. So, really, if you do want to play BTC, me personally, I do not play cryptocurrencies, but if you do want to play it, then I would wait to test these key levels. But as of right now, it looks to be just flat in the middle, no man's land. So really nothing as of right now to even take a look at when it comes to the BTC overall. So now I'm going to get into 3 potential stocks so I'm going to be looking at this coming week. As again, we did get major sell-offs come Thursday and Friday, but now we're entering a potential of a dead cat bounce or maybe even a so-called bottom. Now, me personally, I do not think a bottom is in as of yet until we get specific signs from the government of the war being over. But we're hitting key support zones from these 3 stocks that I would like to basically take a risk to reward trade and see that this could be a potential bounce when it comes to this coming week. All right, so first I'm going to be keeping an eye on is Apple. Apple was very strong come Thursday, even though we did get a major sell-off when it comes to the overall market. But it was probably one of the only stocks that were green when the whole market was red. And then, of course, over time, the market started selling off more and more, causing this stock to be a little bit weaker by the moment. So one level I preached, I believe in my last video, was going to be this Apple 245 area, as we had this as support in this area. It literally bounced short term, which I did take this trade, caught a nice move, and now it's coming back into this 245 area. So, as you can see, we've tested this once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5th time, and now we're getting into this zone again. So if we do get a potential bounce come Monday from Jerome Powell, then 245 longs, I would like to take this. It would be a potential nice move, as you just basically keep a tight stop at 240, but 245, 244 with stops under 240 would be a nice move to the upside when it comes to that. Next stock I'm going to be keeping an eye on is low-key Tesla. I've also said this one last week, but unfortunately we didn't get it. We had a bounce come in Friday to Monday, but now we're getting closer and closer to this buy zone. 350 psychological level is the level I'll be keeping an eye on when it comes to Tesla. As you can see, once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times this level has been tested. So I can definitely say that this level has some type of psychological level to it, to where we'll have some type of motion, you can say. If we do get a breakdown to the downside with a continuation from Jerome Powell, then of course I'll cut my losses and basically maybe look at a 350 short. But as of right now, I do want to test this longs with the sell-off since Wednesday, all the way from almost 400 down to 350 for a potential bounce to the upside back into 400. But 350 psychological level, I want to see if we can probably hold, to which then I'll test longs into it. So that's the second stock me looking at. And then the last one, this is more of a high beta name, but it is you can say a military name, or they do support the military. So yes, this war does benefit them, but it has been getting sold off into. I was going to play this stock last week, but with the earnings last Wednesday, I really didn't want to touch it due to the fact because the options were higher in volatility. So I was not getting near it. But now that they reported earnings, which of course high in cash, but overall I believe their earnings did miss. The revenue did hit, but their earnings per share missed. But overall, they have, I believe, it was 1.25 billion in cash with a 5 billion in market cap. So that's like almost 20% of the company is in cash, which is a very nice position when it comes to it. So and also a price target overall with an average price target of $19, which is pretty interesting overall. So I do like this position for potential longs. The level I'm going to be keeping an eye on is this $8.20 to basically $8 range for longs. As you can see, we've tested this once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and now we're looking to test this the 8th time for a potential long back into this basically $10 to $11 range. So this would be a very nice trade. And the thing is, because it being a high beta name and so correlated with this war, this move can happen within a day or two if they do get any type of government contract or any type of recognition from Trump or something talking about investing into drones and stuff like that. I've seen this stock move 25% in a day just off a simple tweet. So it's a very speculative play, of course, smaller position sizing, but it is a very high risk, high reward type of play. So if we're gonna do something like that, we can just make sure we gotta squeeze it and find a good entry, which I believe I wouldn't mind testing this $8 level for potential longs back into 11. So that is it overall when it comes to my thoughts on this week's market. With the war going on, I cannot be overall bullish until some serious news catalyst comes out of it potentially ending or some type of serious benefit to the US. But when you look at the bright side, if you were a long-term investing and you have a good amount of cash or something like that, this is a very, very, very good opportunity this is something that is, historically speaking, every time we're in a midterm year, the following year is very, very good. So what's it called? It's a good opportunities to choose the stocks you like the most in these types of markets and making sure that you're getting the most discounted value possible, as once this market does turn around, you're just reaping the rewards. So all I can say is just make sure to choose wisely of the stocks you want and make sure that you're just keep buying and while the market continues to fall, because you can never time the bottom. That's the one thing when it comes to trading. You'll never time the bottom, and you just got to make sure you just keep dollar cost averaging into properly named stocks that you feel that can turn around very quickly. So that's all I can say when it comes to this week's trade. Of course, everything could change next week. In my next week's video, we can be at all-time highs and stuff like that. But this is what I see at face value at the moment, and this is what I can preach at the moment while what I'm experienced as a regular day trader, also long-term investor. But that's it with the video. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's video. I hope you guys learned a little something here and there, but I hope you guys have a good rest of your weekend. Have a good trading week this coming week. Make sure to have short-term trades, as we don't know where this market is going at the moment. And I hope you guys have a good trading week. So I'm going to keep it nice and easy. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next one. Peace.